The face of homelessness is not only individuals, but families with children as well. Stay tuned, we will talk about it.
TCT presents Public Report, a look at the issues and events of importance to our viewing area. Now, here is your host.
Hi, and welcome to Public Report. I'm your host, Sheila Pulliam, and we have with us today Michelle Cheek, and she is with Family Promise of Greater Guilford County. Michelle?
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you. Now, Michelle, if you will introduce yourself and tell us what your title is and what you do.
My name is Michelle Cheek. I'm the Program Director for Family Promise of Greater Guilford County, and I do have different roles within the agency. I'm the social worker for the families. I'm also the lead coordinator for the volunteers, so I'm working with the groups in the community on a regular basis. And then I do have staff that I supervise, and it's just the overall supervision of the program from day to day.
Well, sounds like you have a great responsibility. It looks like you have 3 areas that you work with in your organization. So tell us about what your organization is about.
Our program is a shelter for families with children experiencing homelessness.
Okay, so when you say homelessness, what makes a family homeless?
A family can be facing homelessness for many different reasons, but it's families that aren't currently housed independently. You know, they might be staying with family or friends or in a hotel or even in their vehicle. So, you know, we provide a safe, dignified shelter for families to stay at.
That sounds great. So, because when people are homeless, they need someplace to go and someplace safe and warm, and especially when children are involved.
And that is our focus, is families with children.
Excellent. Now, can you tell us the history of your organization?
We were previously Guilford Interfaith Hospitality Network from 1999 to 2011, at which time we suspended services to regroup, and we reopened under the name of Family Promise because the national organization has since become National Interfaith Hospitality Network to Family Promise.
Okay, so in 2011, you made the change, the name to Family Promise, and which sounds very hopeful to me when you think about the name Family Promise. It seems like you get hope from that.
I like the new name. I do.
Excellent, yes. So now with Family Promise, we're dealing with homelessness, and we're dealing with homelessness which involves children. Can you tell us how a family can get connected with your agency?
Okay, well, first I'd like to clarify what the family units look like.
Okay.
It could be a single mom, it could be a single dad, it could be a mom and dad together with their kids, and in the past we have served grandparents with their grandkids.
Awesome.
So it's not just women and children. We are trying to serve the family unit because it's difficult sometimes for families that have older children, especially older teenage males in their family unit, and so we really focus on trying to keep that family unit together.
Awesome. Now, when you're thinking about, because you said the dynamic of the family has so many different faces, is this an issue when the families are coming to the shelter, as far as housing, as far as living arrangements? Does that make a difference?
I'm not sure if I understand your question. I apologize.
No, that's okay. With, for instance, a family that has a young child and a family that has an older adult male, does that make a difference in how they're housed in your facility?
Okay, in our facility, no. But for other shelters and other programs, yes. Some shelters cannot accommodate some of the males.
Older males?
Yes.
Okay, older males.
Yeah, so our shelter is based on who is appropriate for the program because we do conduct criminal background checks.
Okay.
I do face-to-face interviews.
Okay.
You know, I meet with the family, I talk with the family. My concern is how are you going to function as a family within the shelter?
Yes.
And then how are you going to work your way out of the homelessness?
Okay, well, let's start with the process. What is the process or the intake process to become a family there at the shelter?
It begins with a phone call, and there's no right or wrong way as far as a referral. I do not need a referral from a school or a hospital or DSS. The people get my phone number, and there's no right or wrong way as far as why they're calling me, but it starts with that telephone call, and I do a telephone assessment. And the reason why I take the time to talk with a family first is as I'm talking with them, they might be sharing with me something that is not going to be appropriate for what we have to offer, or I might start sharing how we do things, and they might say, that's not what we're looking for. And so it's really kind of like that first way of kind of getting an idea of if this is going to work for both us and for the family.
Absolutely. So you have a set agenda when you speak to the family?
Yeah, I have some basic questions that I ask without
Okay.
being too intrusive.
Okay. So now based off that phone call, and once that phone call has been completed and you said, okay, what's the next step?
I invite them to come in and sit down and meet with me to do a
Okay.
face-to-face interview, to
Okay.
talk a little bit more in depth, get to know each other.
Okay.
They will sign a form giving me permission to conduct a criminal background check.
Okay. Now, what's the time frame for all this to take place?
There are times where I talk with a family in the morning. They're meeting with me in the afternoon. The background check comes in within a day or two,
Awesome.
and then they're with us.
Awesome.
And then other times, I ask them to come in, and they're not ready to meet with me,
Okay.
or they set an appointment. It depends on how quickly they meet with me.
Okay.
And then sometimes it also depends on how many families we're currently serving,
Yes.
because then, unfortunately, they might have to go on a wait list
Okay.
until I can serve the next family.
Okay. And once they come in, the criminal background has been completed, they come into the facility. What then are your responsibilities and what are their responsibilities?
Well, the first day or two is usually just acclimating and assimilating to, the ins and outs and rules and regulations. There's always paperwork.
Yes.
There's always a packet of paperwork for the families to complete. So the first day or two is just getting the family comfortable.
Okay.
But really, the case management piece is critical, because that's when you sit down and you're saying, what are your goals? What are your intentions? What would you like to work on? And start mapping out.
Okay.
Because the time in the shelter is short. It's only up to 90 days.
Okay.
3 months.
All right. And that is a short time when you're looking at homelessness.
It's a lot to get accomplished in a short period of time.
Okay. But families come in and then they move forward. So normally you're offering a program for them to be able to take time at the facility and to regroup and be able to move
That's a great
forward.
way of putting it.
Awesome, awesome. Now, I want to ask you about the volunteers, because I'm sure it takes a lot of volunteers to
Absolutely.
keep this program going.
I wouldn't be able to have this program without, we wouldn't be able to have this program without the volunteers.
Awesome. Can you tell us about your process for volunteers?
Well, the volunteers can be, a lot of our volunteers are with the congregations, but we do have a lot of community groups and civic groups that also get involved. And so one of the main ways that volunteers help us is by providing food and fellowship.
Awesome.
By coming to the shelter in the evenings, providing that evening meal, and staying and hanging out. Playing with the kids, tutoring the kids, interacting with the adults to maybe engage and nurture and guide.
Yes. Awesome. And that gives sometimes probably the families or the parents to be able to just sit down and unwind after a long day. And the children as well will be able to unwind and just have some time.
That's right.
That's awesome. Does it take a lot of volunteers, or do you have a waiting list?
No, we're always in need of volunteers.
Awesome.
We're always in need of volunteers, whether it's volunteers that are willing to help out from time to time during the day at the shelter, or in the evenings and overnight by, being on site and being available to the families.
So the volunteers have to have a background check as well?
Usually the volunteers, if they're involved with a congregation or a civic group, they have their own ways of knowing their own persons. So I lean on the leader of that group to be the one to know their persons.
Okay.
And to make sure that, that who they're sending over to interact with the families is appropriate.
Because many of the churches are involved. Many of the churches provide the volunteers. So what type of funding? How do you get funding for your program?
Through the volunteers, through the congregations, through community groups, grants, foundations. We're not currently receiving any city or state or federal dollars, but the grants, the foundations, and the volunteers and individuals have just been very generous.
Awesome. So if someone wants to donate to your organization, they would need to contact you. Is that correct?
Well, they could also access the website. We do have links to be able to donate for financial contributions.
Okay.
That way. But if they
Okay.
want to do donations in the forms of household items, toiletries, items for the families, then they can
Awesome.
come directly to the shelter to drop off those items.
And we actually have that information on our screen right now.
Okay.
So now,
thank you.
Michelle, I understand that you have a fundraising event coming up, though. Is that correct?
Yes, we do.
All
yes.
right. Can you tell us about
yes,
that?
Yes, we're very excited because on March 26th, we are having our annual dinner, Friend of the Family Award Dinner, but our guest of honor this year is Congressman Howard Coble. And so this is going to be a very exciting event for the community and for our agency.
Okay. So Congressman Howard Coble, is he going to be a speaker, the guest speaker?
Yes, and he'll be our guest of honor as well.
Oh, the guest of honor. Okay. So now, have you already sent out invitations? Who's invited? Is
We're
it
working
open
on
to
that.
the public?
It is open to the public. We will be. We have a fund development committee that is working on the invites and so forth. And so our website will be updated very, very soon with
Okay.
all of that information.
Okay. Now, you just mentioned the website. Can you give us information on how to contact you?
Okay, if you want to contact me directly, you can just call me at 389-2006.
Okay. Michelle Cheek.
Yes.
Okay.
And then our website is familypromiseguilford.org.
Okay. And we have that information on the screen.
Thank you.
For the viewers. It's been a pleasure. It's been so much information because, homelessness is a big issue now in the communities here in Guilford County. And it's awesome to meet someone to have access to an organization that helps children, and not only children, families and children, but
Yes.
children are so important because they need nurturing.
Yes.
Is there an interesting, quickly, situation or story that you would like to share with us?
We've had some amazing, rewarding stories. So I would just like to generally say that when families come into our shelter and our program, to watch a family gain employment, be able to save, be able to then come into the office and say, Michelle, I just paid a utility deposit, I just paid a security deposit, I'm moving into my own apartment again next week. That's just the amazing part of the journey that when you're with the families.
Yes, and the journey can be awesome for a family facing homelessness, and especially with a child. So, Michelle, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We've just heard from Michelle Cheek, and stay tuned. We will be right back.